Good morning. Well, there's a show that nearly never happened. You wouldn't know this, obviously, because I don't really tell you about these things. But just before I come on air, there's a bunch of checks that I run. And I run them at about 8 o'clock, and then I run them again at about 9:45. Everything was hunky-dory. Visually, audio, lighting, everything was hunky-dory. My Stream Deck was working. Everything was working. I had to press the go live button, and I got a notification to say I had no audio. I had no audio on this mic. I had no audio on that mic. I had no audio at all. So I would have been sat here just basically mouthing words. My apologies for my late arrival, but these things do happen. We do occasionally get hit by technicalities. Loads and loads and loads of stuff to get through today. I am just catching up with those that are already here. Who was first off the mark? Gary Newhead was here at 7:28, ungodly hour. I was barely out of bed at that point. Let's have a look. Dan Cullen's here. Peter McKenna is here. Why are we waiting? Why are we waiting? Yeah, well, because my audio went up the Swanee. Chris Ford is here. Good morning, Chris. Good morning. Sun's shining, sun's out, guns out. Are they really? Are they really? It's bloody freezing out there, isn't it? Who else do we have here? Peter McKenna, hip, 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 hip. Hooray. Jim Turner is here as well. Morning, Jim. How are you doing, my friend? Being all modular and stuff. I'm not even looking at Instagram today because as a result of having to reboot everything, I've lost Instagram. I'm not too worried about that. You missed my morning button. I've missed a lot of stuff this morning. There was panic in the ranks, I can tell you. And I think have I got everyone? I think I've probably got everybody there. If I haven't mentioned you in passing, please let me know, and I will do my level best to catch up. While I'm regaining my composure, how about we get things underway? I'm going to roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. Peter McKenna says, what's happened to Ken lately? Is he still fixing his broken digger? I don't know. I think I saw him yesterday. I don't remember seeing him this morning, but good morning, everyone. Very, very quickly, just to let you know, after yesterday's discussions, I will be doing a live show at 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. on Sunday. Never done a Sunday show before, as far as I remember, but Sunday the 23rd, obviously to mark the 9th anniversary of the Didcot disaster. So if you are around on Sunday, please tune in if you possibly could. It will be somber. It will be sad. It will be probably a little bit angry at times, but we are going live. And speak of the devil, and he shall appear. Ken Hatter is here. Good morning. He says, chattering his teeth as he does so. Yes, it is. It is today, Tuesday, the 18th of February. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition. In today's show, Bell rings the changes with its new grader. And this is probably something of a first. We've got two lots of graders today because Caterpillar is going 3D in its pursuit of greater precision. Volvo charges ahead with its electric charging unit, and Manitou takes the Rorschach test. Yeah. Plus, in today's morning monologue, I got it finished. The Diary of a Future Worker, and what it says about the public perception and the young person's public perception of demolition and construction. But before we get to all of that, we do have the small matter of today's mystery machine. Let's have a look. Still playing catch up. Bear with me. I'll show you that in just a moment. But Ken Hatcher says he's going to be at a tractor show on Sunday. Not a problem, Ken. You will be able to watch it on catch up if you so desire. Peter McKenna says Sunday fun day, but now you said about Didcot, I'm wishing I hadn't thought that yet. It won't be a fun day, I don't think. We'll come back to the question of the day in just a moment. But Dan Cullen has just brought us the news that TNA, don't know TNA, it's filed for administration, £30 million turnover company. Another one. We'll come back to all of that good stuff in a moment, but I do need to show you our mystery machine. It is that. Now, to be clear, that is its natural colour. That is how it appears straight off the production line. So I've done nothing with it. However, it's not what you'd call a common or garden machine. Certainly not in this country anyway. Does that help? Does that help? And there are some sarky buggers in today's chat, which I'll reveal in just a moment, because I do need to remind you very quickly of our question of the day. Yes, sarcasm reigns supreme over in the chat. Let's have a look. Peter McKenna. Oh no, Jim Turner actually started it. I asked the question, "What is your favourite way to eat a potato?" Jim Turner says, "With your mouth." Ken Hatcher says, "With a fork." Yeah. Right. Okay. So we do actually have one or two. Do we have any? Let's have a look. Boiled, skin on, dab of butter, skin's the best part. I agree with that, particularly with a jacket potato. Love chomping down on a jacket potato. I'm sure somebody else. Jim Turner says chips or potato cakes, or tater cakes as he describes them. Good call. Peter McKenna, mashed with mint sauce. Okay. And Chris Ford, let it be chips. We hope it's chips. It's chips. Yes, I remember the advert. Just to round that out, I have written this down. So, question of the day, nice easy one. What is your preferred way with a humble potato? Are you mad for mash? Do you champion chips? Do you jump for jackets? Or do you long for lyonnaise? Personally, I think it's a horses for courses call. Smoked haddock or sausages, mash. Egg and chips, however, one of the greatest comfort foods known to all mankind. And even though I'm not a fan of a roast dinner, even I can admire a well-executed roast spud. So keep those coming in. Ken Hatcher, that's an interesting one. Cheese and butter jacket, well cooked. Very, very rarely do I eat a jacket potato, but it has to have cheese, or sometimes, just sometimes, corned beef. Yeah. Mickey's here. Morning, old chips and using my fingers, they stink with the vinegar. Is there a better smell in the world than a bag of chips with loads of salt and vinegar on it? If there is, I haven't encountered it. Going back to our mystery machine, Jim Turner reckons it could be the Menzimuck spider thingy. It is not a Menzimuck spider thingy. Dan Cullen reckons it could be a New Holland Chantway SE210. It's not one of those either. Did we get any more guesses? Just rattling through. Don't think we have. So let me show you a smidge more. There you are. There is a smidgen more. As I say, not a common or garden machine in this country, but it's a current model. If you've got anything on that, please let us know. Chris Hall reckons it could be a Power Plus PP 350E XL. It's not. Peter McKenna reckons an XEMG XE25OU. It's not one of those either. I'll leave you to ponder that while we crack on with the show. And we're going gradering in a minute. Grading, it's something like that. Back after this with Bell. Yeah, this is a weird one. I very rarely feature graders. And yeah, somehow we've managed to pull two together at the same time. So we've got Bell first, and then the second one is it's cat graders, but it's using their 3D system for precision control. So let's start off with Bell. hold that thought because we'll be doing more graders in just a moment. But Gary Muirhead has just joined us. He says, "Good morning. Sorry I'm late to the party. Just arrived on site, greeted by 6 inches of snow." 6 inches of snow. We get about 6 inches of snow over a course of about 10 years here in the south. Mick says, talking of vinegar, which we were, bizarrely, we had a pickle factory near us. Best pickles you would kill for. Factory called Brother Bungs. Everything in wooden barrels. I do like me a pickle. Loads of pickles, actually. In fact, some of the best pickles I had, Japan. One of the things we ate for breakfast on a fairly regular basis while I was in Japan, plain steamed rice, pickles. Don't knock it till we've tried it. Going back to our mystery machine, which looks like that. We had Peter McKenna going for the XCMG. It's not one of those. It's not an LTMG, whatever that is. It's not a Long King either. None of those things. Ken Hatcher says, the last grader I was on, John Deere at NASA doing around the launch pads. Name dropper. Gary Muirhead says, Hydromek make an absolutely stunning grader. Check it out, guys. I may have to. Have you had fried battered pickles? Yes, I have. We had those in Las Vegas, and they refer to them as frickles. Yes, I've had frickles, and they are damn good. Very, very Moorish. And you know, sometimes you eat a thing where you can't actually explain quite why you like it. That's one of them. It doesn't make actual sense, but it does work. I love drinking the vinegar out of a pickled gherkin jar. I love the taste, hate the heartburn that it brings on, but absolutely fantastic. Peter says, bloody delicious. Max Ball ME305 says Chris Ford about our mystery machine. It's not one of those, but let me show you a smidgen more. There's a bit of tracked undercarriage to be going on with. I think we all know what type of machine it is, but what we're looking for is a make and a model. Now, I promised you more in way of graders, and more graders you shall have immediately after this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
We were talking about frickles, fried pickles, but that's like battered Mars bars. Yes, absolutely battered Mars bars. I don't get to eat it often enough to be a real connoisseur. Not a huge fan of the battered Mars bar. I've had it a couple of times, and it's okay, and I like a Mars bar, and I like batter. Not a fan. But what I do appreciate, Glasgow, thank you, a deep fried battered Bounty. Oh, now we're talking. Mick says, between them and Sarson's in South London, they supplied most of the vinegar to the pie mash shops in East and South London. Did they? I mean, I'm very familiar with Sarson's, obviously. There's a bottle of Sarson's in my cupboard as we speak. There's also a bottle of chili vinegar, direct from Manses, I think, in my... If I've said this before, please, I apologise. If you go into a pie mash shop in, ideally, the east end of London, there are bottles of vinegar. There's usually just a plain vinegar, like a malt vinegar, but there's another one, chili vinegar. And chili vinegar actually has chilies in it. They are floating around in it. And when I was a kid, my dad, I asked, what is that exactly? What's in there? And he said, those are squid. Squid, he said. I reckon I was probably almost a teenager before I realised he was winding me up. Battered haggis and mushy peas. Battered haggis. I'm saying that with surprise and shock, but I'm also saying, oh, yeah, I bet that's fantastic. Jim, have you ever drunk the juice out of a beetroot jar? I did, and I was peeing red in the morning. I'm a man with limited number of anecdotes, but I do remember me and my mates used to drink a hospital, it was a bar within a hospital we used to drink there for two reasons. One, because it was for the doctors and nurses, the booze was very, very cheap. You could, absolutely pennies. The other thing, obviously, was it was filled with nurses, which is never a bad thing. One evening, they had a promotion on Pernod and blackcurrant. So we all got absolutely falling down drunk on Pernod and blackcurrant. On our way home, all of us were ill. All of us were convinced we were bleeding to death, hemorrhaging. Turns out, just blackcurrant. Will you bog off with pie mashups? No. No. when I am no longer doing this, when I've hung up the hard hat and I've gone to the great live stream in the sky, I'd like my ashes spread around Manzies, please. Jim Turner says, yes, I love beetroot pickle juice. Mick says, best thing you can drink, great for the kidneys. Is it? I get heartburn with vinegar, but I do think it's worth it. Going back to the mystery machine, let me take that away very quickly. There is the mystery machine. Dan says, is it a Hudig? It's not a Hudig. Is it a Sumitomo SH368 XHD-7? It's not one of those either. Dan says, best pie mash shops are hard to beat. We bizarrely, and I will come back to the mystery machine in just a moment. Bizarrely, we have got here. I'm in Stoneleigh, in just on the outskirts of Epsom. Round the corner from us, literally about a 4-minute walk from where I'm sat now, is what they refer to as a Cockney Museum. I've never set foot in the Cockney Museum because I don't actually think it belongs in Stoneleigh. We're not in London or anything. But they do actually sell Manzies pie and mash. So if I go on to Uber Eats and order pie and mash from Manzies, it's here in about 3-4 minutes sometimes. Yeah, that's the way it works. Nick says, still go to Stamford Hill for my pickles, all kosher. Yes, count me. What is it? What is it with the Jewish faith? I don't mean the Jewish faith from religious terms because I know nothing about it. But Jewish food, yeah. Get me in New York and I can eat nothing but Jewish food for the entire time I'm there. It is matzo balls and chicken soup and pastrami sandwiches and stuff. Love all of that. Let's have a look. Peter McKenna says, funny story about beetroot. Okay. I once went to hospital thinking I was peeing blood, sat in the waiting room for nearly an hour until the wife said to me, you sure it wasn't all that beetroot you ate? Yeah. I bet you're not the only person that's done that as well. Gary Muirhead says, we batter everything in Scotland, even each other. Well done, sir. Well done. Lovely turn of phrase. Look where we got. I rushed out all ashamed and embarrassed, as you might. Okay, Mystery Machine, we're going back to Chris Ford, who reckons it could be a Sumitomo. It's not a Sumitomo at all. Mick says, it's a Jewish thing, mate. Yeah. Bagels, all of that stuff, all good Jewish fare. Hi Mac 580, it's not one of those either. Let me show you a little bit more. There you are. There's a bit of cab. I don't suppose even the most eagle-eyed will be able to read what it says on there, but see what you can do. The oldest way to preserve food was to pickle everything, and I'm okay with that. I do remember going on a trip to Cato Cranes. Cato Cranes used to have a facility up, well, they may still have actually, up in Sweden, just outside Gothenburg. And part of the deal when you went there, I did this 3 or 4 times, you'd go out on the first evening and you went to what appeared to be some sort of stately home kind of arrangement, and it was lots and lots to eat and lots to drink and everything else. And then the back of this place opened up and you were basically in the Swedish equivalent of Alton Towers. So there's rides and big dippers and spinny things and everything else. So obviously we're all tanked up. We're all properly tanked up on beer and schnapps and everything else. Lots and lots of illness, lots and lots of sickness, lots and lots of unpleasantness. Following morning, they get you up at about 6 o'clock in the morning and they offer you for breakfast pickled herrings. And they're fantastic. Even if you've had too much to drink the night before, pickled herrings first thing in the morning, I'd recommend it. Not for the faint of heart, an acquired taste, but bloody delicious. Peter McKenna, getting very technical with our mystery machine today, reckons it could be a big yellow digging thing. I mean, he's right. It's not the answer I'm looking for, but he is right. I'll show you a bit more in a second. But Mick says, only thing I miss is the Jewish sweets and cakes. Not sure the heart or blood pressure would hold out. Not familiar with Jewish sweets or cakes. There is, bizarrely, and I don't know quite how we've got to this point because we were talking about potatoes earlier. I live probably 20, 25 minutes away from Tooting. Tooting these days is hugely multicultural. There's lots and lots of shops. There's one in particular. I can't drive through Tooting without pulling over. There is a shop there that does Indian sweets. And you take a bite out of some of these things and you can actually feel your teeth beginning to rot. They're that sweet. And I'm good with that. Mystery Machine. It's not a zoom line of any description. It's not an XEMG of any kind. It's not a Robex of any kind. Here's a smidgen more. There you are. Keep the guesses coming. Now, I did promise you that we haven't done the cat grade thing, have we? No, let's do that. One of the best things about this show, for me at least, is the fact that it doesn't matter what narrative I put in place, not what plans I put in place, what script I put in place, doesn't matter. Conversation just goes off on its own. Love it. We were talking about tooting. I'll do a bit more on tooting in a moment. First of all, Peter McKenna says, lots of people around me do a lot of tooting, but generally smells funny. Yes. Beans, the musical fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot. Yes, absolutely. Mick, going back to Jewish fruits, latkes, oy vey, he says, in his finest Cockney Jewishness. Now, that's a way of cooking spuds. I agree. Gary Muirhead says, does Wolfie still live in Tooting? Power to the people. He doesn't, but I do make a point of wearing a beret whenever I go there. It's not strictly true, but yeah, it's funny nonetheless. Just as a very quick one, before I was married, me and my good lady went on a holiday. It wasn't a Club 1830. It was kind of an upmarket Thompson's version. Can't remember what it was called, but we went to Corfu. And this is 40 years ago, probably, best part of. Yeah, about 40 years ago. So we went to Corfu. Corfu at the time was largely untouched. It's a bit different now, but it was largely untouched. Lovely place, fantastic food and everything else. But we were sat around one morning, and there was a couple. They were probably 4 or 5 years older than me and my other half. And they picked up on my accent and my wife's accent. Oh, are you Londoners? Yes, we're Londoners. Oh, well, we're from London as well. Where are you from? And the guy said, in all seriousness, he said, Tooting. I said, where? Tooting. Tooting? I've never heard of Tooting. Tooting. And my wife, who was a bit quicker on the mark, went, do you mean Tooting? Yes, he meant Tooting, with no G on the end. Tooting. Same people that always claim that Battersea, South Chelsea. Yes, right. Let's have a look. Dan Cullen was going for a Sunyu 220 for our mystery machine. It's not a Lashid. I don't even know what a Lashid is. SC 360. It's not one of those. It's not one of those. It's not a Neumann. I'm going to say very quick good morning, Josh Hallam. Morning, Josh. How are you doing, my friend? Good of you to be here. Chris Ford going for a D-Tank DE220. It's not. Thought of these as they were featured at Balmer. Yep, don't know them at all. It's none of those things. It's not one of those. It's not one of those. We did have something else that I spotted going through there. Yes, Mick said, let me just get that out the way and I'll get that out the way as well. Mick says, Chris asked yesterday if anyone was putting themselves forward, and this is for the project at Didcot. No, not Didcot, at Grenfell. Come back to Didcot later. Apparently, he has heard word 3 companies have put themselves forward rather than me, is what I would say on that. Oh, mate, all the newcomers on the island say they are from Canary Wharf. Bloody arguments they cause. Stuck-up wannabes. Canary Wharf, yes. Yes. It's the Isle, isn't it? Isle of Dogs? Isle of Dogs. Nothing wrong with the Isle of Dogs. Always amazes me. I don't go to see West Ham anywhere near as I would like because it's a bloody long hike and frankly we lose too much. But whenever I get myself within the environs, when I get myself to Stratford, my accent comes back. It comes pouring back. Mark, have a look on the link on the group. The cab is very similar. I'll take a look at that in just a moment, Peter. Not a problem at all, but it is not one of those. Let me show you a bit more. There you are. There's a bit of back end. Anybody got any thoughts on that? No. Right. Okay. And nor would I, says Mick. Yeah, that's talking about going for the Grenfell job. Yeah, that's too much hassle, regardless of how much it's going to be worth. We're going to play this, and then we're going to show you how you go about charging your very fine Volvo electric machines. Just a moment.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Yeah, you've been out and you bought yourself a fancy new Volvo electric excavator, but you need some way to keep the thing juiced. Why not pair it with one of these?
Hi, my name is Philip, and in this video I'll show you how to use our new power unit for electric compact machines, Volvo PU40. To power up the PU40, turn these 2 switches on. The screen will light up and you'll see the current state of charge of the PU40 expressed in percentage. PU40 must be charged from the grid before being transported to the job site, where it will fast charge your electric machines. It's delivered with an AC charging cable and 3 different adapters. To charge PU40 from the grid, take the AC charging cable, plug it into an electrical outlet on one side and into the PU40 on another side. Charging will start after pressing this button. In addition to the AC charging cable, it's also possible to charge PU40 significantly faster with 17 kilowatt DC charger. Charging will start after closing the lid and pressing this button. The PU40 is designed to be used on job sites with weak or without grid availability. It's easy to transport a fully charged PU40 to your job site, allowing you to fast charge your electric machines. The 17 kilowatt DC charger is a special feature which makes PU40 unique. This means that it's possible to fully recharge your Volvo electric compact excavator in only 1 hour, or 2 hours in the case of your Volvo electric compact wheel loader. In addition, it's possible to charge your electric compact machines with 3 kilowatt outlets using AC charging cable. These same outlets can also be used to supply electrical power to other work tools you may have at your job site. At the end of your workday, turn PU40 off and transport it back to base for recharging. The PU40, the best companion for your electric compact machines.
Now, that video is actually a couple of months old. I brought it to you for a specific reason, and that specific reason is we had some news this morning, which I'm about to share with you right now. Here we go. Let's see what I'm looking at. There you are. Volvo Construction Equipment has announced that it is attending Bauma, which we already knew, but it is going to be unveiling its first ever zero emission only lineup. The entirety of Volvo's, which is bound to be an extremely impressive display, is going to be all electric and all zero emission. They are dedicating their entire Bauma display to zero emissions. Have to say, hats off. You put your money where your mouth is, and that's exactly what they've done. So hats off to the fine folks at Volvo. Also on the subject of electric machines, Mick says, after looking at the JCB electric machine, got to say, I hope it works for them. I think there's going to be a tipping point, and at some point, all it will take is for a major contractor or to demand electric for a particular project, or for a major plant hire to say, yes, that's the way we're going, and then all of a sudden they will be the machine du jour, as it were. Still not getting any right answers on our mystery machine. That's where we are at the moment. Chris Ford going for a Lugon. Peter McKenna going for a Lugon. And go for a Lugon again. It's not a Lugon at all. Peter says, Volvo trucks have a suitcase-sized charger for their electric trucks. Do they? Why can't we have those over here? Let's have a look. There's a little bit more. Does that help at all? Mick says, just hope they build them all in the UK, not like Doc Martens are going to be made in India. Be buggered if I'm paying 250 quid for my DMs from India. They've been making them in India. There are, without going completely off the beam here, there are 2 lines of Doc Martens. There are the originals, which I believe are still made here, Northampton way or thereabouts, but they've shipped a load out to India as well. There is a price difference, not as much as I think there should be, but there is a price difference. I've got to be honest. I've been to the Dr. Martin shop in Camden Market. I couldn't tell the difference, and bizarrely, the ones that I liked, not because I'm that way inclined, but Dr. Martens actually now make a vegan boots. trust me, the colours that you can get on the vegan range, absolutely stonking. There was the cherry. Yes. The cherry red versions. There's mine. Never far away. The cherry red versions you can get in this traditional leather. They do one that's even redder if you go for the vegan option. Just Dr. Martens. They were very nearly a sponsor at one point, and then saw the error of their ways. Let's have a look. It says, I've posted the link on the group. Thank you very much indeed. That's the, I'm guessing that is, hang on, I'll come back to you in a second. Posted the link. I think that is going to be for the suitcase-sized charger. Dan Cullen's going for Mystery Machine, the Loval 220. It's not. You put Mick up, dropped the Mystery Machine off, didn't get the chance to see it before it went. So Peter McKenna, here you are. There is the Mystery Machine. Vegan Doc Martens are fantastic. I agree. Yeah, as I say, wouldn't do it for ethical reasons, but in terms of colour, awesome. Peter says Dr. Martens are not made the same standards they used to be. They are absolutely crap. I think those ones I've got down there are best part 10 years old. They're still fine for me. Can't remember. I think I bought my first pair. I actually bought my first pair secondhand off a mate of mine at school when I was about 14. And I don't think since then I've had a period in my life where there wasn't a pair present in my wardrobe. I can't show you any more of the Mystery Machine because that's all there is. So I'll leave it up for just a second. We've got, what do we got? Yeah, we've got one funny little video, and then we've got something not quite so funny, but good anyway. So yeah, I'll leave that up for just a second so you can try and decipher what it is. And I'll be right back after one of these. Yeah, just on the subject of boots, got my eye on a pair of Red Wings. They are really expensive, but they're really, really nice. Mick says, load of bullshit, vegan boots indeed. Yeah, listen, they've got, if you get across to Camden, and I do recommend it, even though it has been very, very commercialised, get across to Camden. The Dr. Martin shop is absolutely fantastic because they've got some vintage boots there. They've got some fancy ones that they've done in collaboration with various artists and stuff like that. But they have got a vegan range. And as I say, when you see the leather ones, which I love, but you see them alongside the vegan ones with the slightly different colours, very, very good. Wasn't there a song about Dr. Martin boots? There was. There was indeed. Can't remember who did it, but there was. Dan Cullen is going for the Cinemac ZG200. It's not. It's not. You've still got time though, because we're going to do a film now with Manitou. Now, just very, very quickly, I will tell you officially, I had a Zoom meeting back end of last week with Manitou about us working with them for Bauma, and they have said, the man from Manitou, he say yes. So we will be working with Manitou, and I'm quite pleased because obviously, top-notch brand, fantastic telehandlers and everything else, but they've also got a sense of humour.
Take your time, Paul, and tell me, what do you see here?
It's a Manitou machine. 160 ATJ. Sure.
Good. What do you see here?
MC25. It's so cute machine.
And the last one, Paul. What do you see here?
It's my favorite machine. MLT A41.
Just a heads up, using Manitou machines can be seriously addictive.
Love it. Love it. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Peter McKenna. Alexi Sale. Dr. Martin boots, wasn't it? Yeah, it was Alexi Sale. Mick says, still got my braces from the original maker for Lord John's. I've got a pair of braces. I mean, I don't know how long I've had them, but they are actual RAF braces. My grandfather on my mother's side was in the RAF, and I've got his braces. They look terrible. They were kind of beigey, khaki kind of color, but they've part faded and part stained. Not stained as in I've got stuff down them, but they've kind of weathered and they don't look great. But I still love them. Very good. That's like me. Yeah, absolutely. Nothing like a bit of obsession, I always say. And mixes, go there often, mate. I like the vintage ones. Yeah. It's one of the places I always recommend. You know, you see your American tourists coming over here and they go and do, you know, the Tower of London and Buckingham Palace. Get yourself to Camden, get a real taste of the place. Fantastic. We have but one more film, and it's related to all things Balmer. Back after this. Peter McKellar says, think Mark's won the mystery machine today, unless he falls at the last hurdle and Dan overtakes. Who the hell knows? Who was a mod or a rocker? Mod. Which is bizarre. Because I prefer rock music. You know, I like a bit of shouty music. But yeah, I have to say, you know, I spent most of my formative years wearing a suit. I was very much in the mod camp, no question about it. And Peter McKenna, who is single-handedly populating the WhatsApp group today, he's posted a link to the DM song, Dr. Martin's song, over on our WhatsApp group. If you're not a member of the WhatsApp group, why the hell not? Get yourself over there. Yeah, I've promised you one more thing. Balmer has an innovation award, and they've just announced, literally today, they've announced those that are in the running for those innovation awards. I'm sure you'll find those over online somewhere, but this is one of the entries. And I've got to admit, the principle of what I'm about to show you, I love. The execution, I have serious question marks about, and I think you will too. Have a look at this.
In construction machinery, sensors collect more data than ever, and AI is finding its place in daily workflows. Systems like 3D machine control, digital terrain models, and collision monitoring are reshaping the industry. But integrating all this technology without overwhelming operators, how can that be achieved? We've reimagined the human-machine interface for construction machinery by embedding the latest sensor technologies and AI into an innovative interface. We make the complex simple. Our solution adds digital information directly to the operator's reality. With intuitive visuals, users can now see what was previously invisible. Using 3D scans, the real environment is captured and combined with a digital model to create a true digital twin. An LED matrix display allows height deviations and plausibility checks, or the location of underground media to be identified at a glance. AI-powered cameras monitor the machine's danger zone, and an LED light strip gives the operator clear, intuitive feedback on direction and risk. No need for extra displays or disruptive warning sounds. The future of construction machinery is here, and it's designed with the operator in mind.
Turn this TV off. Ain't want my type activity, but don't you get involved. Hey, what? How many shit I seen? Send them off. Take a risk or take a trip. You know I'm tripping for my dog.
Thanks to MB Crusher for sponsoring that Mission to Munich segment. So, the idea of taking all of those various screens out of the cab, love it. The idea of using things like the window frame to show that you're level and that you're on target, love it. I love all of it. The LED display or the LED screen on the inside of the dipper. How long is that going to last, you reckon? Day? An hour? Somebody's clumping that, aren't they? I see what they're trying to do, but I can't see it lasting, to be honest. Were you really? Mixes as an extra in Quadrophenia, me and the old Lambo 135 Parker and tonic suit, got to be a mod. You were an extra in Quadrophenia. Well, listen, Mick, I already held you in hugely high regard, even more so now. Yeah, even more so. The tunnel enlargement system looks fab too. I'll have a look at that. Yeah, an extra in quadrophenia. Superb stuff. I know there was a guy went to my school, a couple of years younger than me, and left my school and actually went to my wife's school, you know, a couple of miles down the road, and he was an extra in the Wall. You know, another brick in the wall. Pink Floyd, he was an extra in that. You see him very, very briefly, but he was in that. Superb stuff. Mystery Machine, I do need to resolve that before I go over and do the other thing. So it is, there you are, that's what you had. It's a Rhino. It's a Rhino REX 210 is what it is. So not that it matters one iota, but I'm claiming a victory for that. I'm really quite pleased with that. Have to admit, I had a BSA A10 that I rode. See, 1 foot in each camp, both a mod and a rocker, but a mod at the right time. If you're in quadrophenia, Mick, can we see you? Are you spottable? Are you identifiable? I think I've already told you this story, but I'll tell you anyway. What was the bloody film called? I can't remember the name of the film, but my eldest son Ollie was in a film, Storm something or other. I can't remember. Mickey Rourke's in it, Alicia Silverstone's in it, various other people as well. And he went as an extra, spent the entire day at the studios, basically eating his body weight in bacon sandwiches. And you see him on screen for about that long, but you can see him. Yeah, you can see him. Gary, did you get to meet Leslie Ash, Mick? Oh, see, Leslie Ash back then. Oh, Leslie Ash now. Not. Right, listen, I haven't aged particularly well either. Never thought of rhinos. No, they're crushers. I don't know are they the same? No, that's Red Rhino is British, and that one I think is an Indian brand. So I don't think as far as I know, they're not related. But yeah, there we are. Dan says, "Buggers, well done, Mark, yet again." Well, listen, I can cheat it, can't I? And apparently, I'm going to be spending the rest of my day looking through our WhatsApp group because Peter McKenna is basically putting links to everything over there. Anywho, that's about it for the main part of today's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into my morning monologue. If you can't stick around for that, then do please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Hope to see you again very soon. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I need you to use your imagination. In just a moment, I'll be back after this. Okay, so before we get into the actual monologue itself, I need to give you a bit of context. I was trying to imagine what a 14 or a 15-year-old might think of the demolition and construction sector as a career option. Now, obviously, it's a very long time since I was 14, and besides, I kind of carry around with me about 36 years of industry baggage. So rather than me doing the actual thinking, I did spent a bit of Saturday and a bit of Sunday training in AI to do the thinking for me. Just to be clear, all the words that you're about to hear are mine. I wrote it, but I just asked the AI to compare and contrast the likely reactions of a soon-to-be school leaver looking at construction and demolition alongside other potential career paths. I then took those reactions and turned them into what you're about to hear, which is called a diary, or the diary of a future worker. Now, if you can imagine me without a beard and about 46 years younger, that might help too. But this is Diary of a Future Worker. Monday, the 9th of June. School is making us think about careers, like really think. We've got a careers advisor coming in next week, and we're supposed to have a plan or at least an idea of what we want to do with our lives. I don't know what I want to do. I just know what I don't want to do. My uncle works in demolition. Every time I see him, he's got a new story about a near miss, some dodgy scaffolding, some guy that's lost a finger or worse. He makes it sound like a war zone, and I don't fancy getting caught in the crossfire. Dad says it's honest. Let me do that again. Dad says it's honest work, that we need people to knock stuff down so that new things can be built. but I don't see him rushing to put a hard hat on or get soaked through in the middle of November. It's got to be something better than that. Wednesday, the 11th of June. We had a classroom discussion today. Miss Carter told us to write a list of things we want from a job. Everyone said stuff like good pay, job security, and I added, not getting crushed by falling debris. Then we had to list the things that we don't want. That was easier. I don't want to stand outside in the freezing cold. I don't want to breathe in dust all day. I don't want to have to worry about the company folding every time there's a recession. Tom's dad works in tech. He gets to work from home some days, has a decent salary, and he goes on business trips to places that aren't another muddy field. That sounds way better than working in the pouring rain. Friday, the 13th of June. I watched a YouTube video today about construction site accidents. One guy got buried under rubble. Another fell from a platform because he wasn't given the right safety gear. Made my stomach turn. Why would I choose that for a job? Why would anyone? Monday, the 16th of June. Careers advisor tomorrow. I'm supposed to have a list of jobs I'd consider. I've written down tech, engineering, pharmaceuticals, things that actually have a future. I left construction and demolition off the list. No point in thinking about jobs that might not even exist in 20 years, not when machines are taking over. Mum says I'm being too quick to judge, that all jobs have risks. But some risks seem more worth it than others. Tuesday, the 17th of June. The careers meeting was weird. The advisor was nice enough, but when I said the advisor was nice enough, but when I said I wanted something stable, something safe, she actually suggested construction. She said, we'll always need people to build and demolish things. I wanted to ask her if she'd ever been on a construction site. I then brought up automation, but she waved it off, said some jobs will change, but people will always be needed. Not sure I buy that. She also mentioned the thrill of working in demolition. That's what they call it? A thrill? When you don't know if you'll go home in one piece? I left feeling like I needed to prove her wrong. Some careers are better than others. Some careers actually care about the people doing the work. Thursday, the 19th of June. I told Uncle Jack about the careers meeting. He laughed. Are they still peddling that old rubbish? He told me about a guy he worked with for 15 years who got laid off without warning. Said he killed himself as a result. Said loyalty doesn't mean much when the economy shifts. Said the bosses make their money no matter what, but the workers? Disposable. I asked him if he'd do it all again. He went quiet for a bit and then he said, if I had a choice? Probably not. Monday, the 23rd of June. I've been thinking a lot about what Uncle Jack said. I looked up salaries. A demolition worker makes decent money until there's no work. Then you're stuck hoping another job comes up before the bills pile up. A software engineer earns more, works in an office, and doesn't have to worry about getting hit on the head by falling concrete. Seems like an easy choice to me. Wednesday, the 25th of June. Some of the boys in my class say they're going into construction because their dads do it. Some actually like the idea of working with their hands. Fair enough. But I wonder if they know what they're really signing up for. Hard hats don't stop everything. High-vis vests don't make you invincible. And a handshake promise from a boss certainly doesn't guarantee you a future. Friday, the 27th of June. Miss Carter asked me today why I was so against construction. I told her it's dangerous, unstable, and full of people who get used up and thrown away. She said I was being a bit harsh, that some people love it. I asked her why so many people leave it if they love it so much. She didn't have an answer. Sunday, the 1st of July. Mum showed me an article today about a tech startup. Some 22-year-old just sold an app for millions. I don't even need millions, but I'd like a career where I get to be creative, solve problems, and not risk my life every time I clock in. Tuesday, the 3rd of July. A guy from a demolition company came to talk at school today. He said the industry is changing, that it's safer than ever. But then he admitted companies are still cutting corners to save money. That's a problem, isn't it? It only takes one bad day. I asked him about corruption. He said he'd talk to me afterwards, but he didn't. Friday, the 6th of July. I think I've made my mind up. I don't want a job that treats me like I'm disposable. I want a career with a future where I can work indoors, where I don't have to worry about the next economic crash leaving me unemployed. Demolition and construction? No thanks. Now, a few things here. Remember, I just gave the AI some pointers on what I was trying to do. The AI found the references to danger, accidents, corruption. I didn't guide it. While some of the facts are undeniable, I don't agree with the overall message. Just want to state that for the record. In spite of everything, I do believe that demolition and construction is a superb career choice for the right young person. But when I mentioned yesterday that this was going to be our topic of conversation, our friend Peter McKenna hopped onto the internet and found an article entitled, "Why do you think millennials don't want construction jobs?" This was the answer. Why did the Egyptians enslave people to build the pyramids? Why did the Chinese enslave people to build the Great Wall? Because construction is a horrible job that exposes you to toxic chemicals, destroys your body, and leads to an early death. Construction is the fallback for people who made mistakes in life. No one does it out of choice, only out of necessity. Obviously, there's a lot to unpack there, but the main thing is this: regardless of how much I and we defend the industry, there are messages out there. These are the messages that are out there in the wider world. That is the perception of those that are looking for work. And we know better because we get to see the many positives the industry has to offer each and every day. But we only see them now because we're in the business. If we're actually going to attract more people into this sector, our first job surely is to fix this clearly broken perception. I challenge you all, when all this is over and done with, clear the cache on your computer or your phone and go search for, should I get a job in construction? You see what it comes up with, because it's not just Peter and his millennial thing. It's not just me with my AI. That is the wider perception. So over to the chat, see what that's all saying. Okay, so going back to Quadrophenia, as we were. Yes, if you watch the ride down, I'm about 10th, also on the front when it kicked off. Awesome. I met a couple of main stars. Every time I saw Leslie, I melted and got shy. I don't blame you. Rhinoceros excavators are Chinese. Thank you. Phil Daniels always approachable and spoke to Sting a few times. Nice. I think Sting comes across as a decent fella. Rhino are actually from Indonesia. I was wrong. Rhinoceros excavators are Chinese. What a dick I am. Oh, I wouldn't say that. Rhino is... I'm not going to go through that because I want to get back to this. While a properly fitted and maintained hard hat is designed to protect you from head injuries, it can't guarantee complete safety and could potentially contribute to death in extreme scenarios. Worth knowing. Well, to be honest, I've done it by choice, as I love what I do. And listen, I've worked across various different industries, admittedly in a journalistic role. I wouldn't swap it for the world. But, if you're 13, 14, 15, and you're looking at careers, and you've literally got your whole life out in front of you, and you can choose the path. Do I go down this one, the path marked construction and demolition and all that entails, or do I go down the one marked retail? Do I go down the one marked tech, pharmaceuticals, whatever it might be? You tell me, if you could erase what you know now and think about it again, would you necessarily make that choice? I really don't know what I'd do if I wasn't in construction. And I think that's one of the points. Is I'll come back to you in just a second, Jim. One of the points I wanted to make with this, I'm sure all of these are the same. If you're in the pharmaceutical industry, I'm sure it has its challenges. I'm sure it has its ups and downs. I'm sure you get to work with some proper arseholes over there as much as you do here, and so on down the line. What I'm talking about is if you are a young person, never mind Jim's excellent idea of us as an industry doing more outreach to the industry, outreach to education, getting representatives of this industry into schools, getting the schools onto site or into dedicated training centres. If you can put all of that to one side just for a moment and you think and you think if you're 13, male or female, 13, 14 or 15, you go onto Google and you type jobs in construction or you type construction and demolition, you will be presented. Don't take my word for it. Go and do it. You will be presented with things like accidents and fatalities and corruption and company collapses and everything that goes with it. And if you are literally at a loss and you've got over here pretty well paid, secure by and large, working indoors, air-conditioned office, or over here pissing with rain, possible danger, which one are you going to choose? Jim says, everyone in every job is disposable. Nobody waits around for another job when they need the money. You take anything available until a better job comes along. You do. I do think, though, I mean, I know you can go off at tangents. Listen, I've done it myself, but by and large, I think, particularly when times are hard, if you get yourself, if you're 16, possibly not, but 17, 18, 19, you get yourself in a job while you're still learning the ropes, while you're maturing and everything else, the chances are you are going to be spending 2, 3, 5, 10 years in that industry. So I think more than, and bearing in mind also, when you think about the pressures, the economic pressures on your average school leaver, they've come out of school, they've come out of college, and they are looking for a job. Chances are they still live with their parents. Yes, they might be bunging their mum some housekeeping or whatever it might be, but they just basically need a job. Not necessarily the best job in the world, not necessarily the best industry in the world, but they are looking for a job to pay them money. So they're making a completely subjective choice. Do I want to earn 100 quid a day in danger, or do I want to earn £100 a day not in danger? Jim Turner says, I do my job because I'm well paid, short hours, I find it easy and enjoyable. Again, please, I'm going to say this again. Please let me say this again. I love the industry. I could write about anything. I have written about loads of stuff. I choose to stay here and write about this stuff because I love the industry and I love the people. But I only know that because I've done 36 years in it. If you were coming in cold, if you were looking at a career path as a blank sheet of paper, would you? Would you choose this as your path again? Mick says, now, according to the academics, those who built the pyramids were not slaves. The things mentioned by you is rife in the industry. To be honest, we Demolition have shot ourselves in the foot over the last 20-odd years. Yeah, well, some of it, I think, goes back further than that. I mean, things like the collusion, the bid rigging, you can't tell me that that's just a 20-year-old thing. That's been a part of the industry, an unspoken part, but a part of the industry for as long as I can remember. I think the difference is that somebody actually uncovered it and went public with it this time. But, the dangers, despite the fact that we've, compared to when I joined the industry 35, 36 years ago, our accident rate has gone down a bit. Our fatality rate has gone down a bit more. But post-COVID, both of them have gone back up again. And all of that, it's all there. And I do wonder if the internet and social media is a contributory factor. If you search Google or you use ChatGPT, which is one of the AIs that I trained to do the diary in the first place, if you do that, you're going to be presented with lots of bad and not a huge amount of good. Peter McKenna says, my son is in construction. His best mate is a computer nerd. My wife is trying to get him to change to computers as the money is better and you're not out in all weathers. Yeah. And don't forget also, I think that's a really valid point from Peter there. If you're not yet left school and you're trying to choose your potential career path, or if you have just left school and you're still working at home, the influence of your parents is going to make quite a big impact. You know, and I said it a few weeks ago, you know, if you are sat there, you know, on the internet, you're on your laptop and you're saying to your mum, I quite fancy a job in demolition. Oh, show me a bit of demolition. And, you know, Google comes up with collusion and fraud and accidents and fatalities and exposure to asbestos and all of those kind of things. Your mum and possibly your dad are going to be sat there like, are you sure? You really think that's a good idea? Or would you not prefer one of these jobs? Peter says, construction work is failing to appeal to younger people. The main reasons respondents gave were they lacked the right skills, 34%. They were dissuaded by manual work, yeah. Again, here's another area where I think we've fallen down. 35% of people dissuaded from by the fact that there is manual work involved. Now, there are two arguments to that. One, I think, is, you know, we can all point at millennials and say, oh, they're lazy fuckers, they don't want to get their hands dirty. I'm sure there is a degree of truth in that. But I think also we have failed as an industry to advise and explain the fact that there is not anywhere near as much manual work involved in demolition and construction as there used to be. You know, by and large, I mean, you are limited on the size of a bag of cement you can lift. You know, there are actual regulations in place for that. A lot of what takes place on demolition sites is done by machines. Yes, there is a bit of hand picking and that kind of thing, and you do occasionally wield a mattock from time to time, but by and large, you are doing it from the comfort of a machine. The manual work, we have failed. If the belief out there is that demolition and construction is primarily manual, we have failed to explain ourselves correctly. Jim Turner says, corruption doesn't matter to us as long as we get paid. But there is that possibility, isn't there? Now, you know, I don't like to single them out, but you think about Squibb Group, and I don't think that their CMA fine took them under, but they were fined a couple of million by the CMA. They're not here anymore. You know, it doesn't help your job security, does it? Dan says, I've met some fantastic people, lifelong friends and amazing characters, which is precisely why I stayed. But again, you only know that because you're inside looking out rather than outside looking in. Mick says, the worst day's work done was getting rid of the grandfather's rights and trying to make us older ones do an MVQ so we could carry on working. Demo has lost out to the experience of us older blokes, all for the sake of someone trying to tell us how to do the work we've done for many years. Never hardly picked up a mattock or done the work. Yeah. And as a follow-on from that, I understand the safety implications. But some of the people that are now literally at the top table of the UK demolition industry came up through the ranks, primarily because their father or their grandfather started the company. So they were sweeping the yard at 8 years old. You know, they were driving a digger in the yard at 11 years old. They were helping refuel machines on a Sunday morning at 12 years old or whatever it might be. They were exposed. As an industry, we decided, that's not safe practice. We need a rule and a regulation for that. You'd have thought that surely if your father or your grandfather was there, they'd be taking pretty damn good care of you. But no, we put in a rule and regulation. So not only have we made it harder for people to come into the industry, we've lost that point of inspiration. You know, that point where a kid of 7, 8, 10 gets behind the levers of an excavator and just goes, oh yeah, I fancy some of this. We've taken that away. Okay, from the last 50 years, he says, Peter says, no secret, many people today still hold views of the construction industry and on-site being a dirty environment, despite this being long outdated. Yeah. And whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? Is that the young person's fault? They haven't dug deep enough and they haven't looked hard enough? Or is it the fact that we haven't told them that? And I realise this is a minor thing, but even when you think back, and I've mentioned this so many times, you know, all of demolition and all of construction now takes place behind hoardings. So, rather than being able to see a site, a proper, modern, well-run site where everything's organized, everything's in its place, there's a place for everything, everything is in its right place, the machines are well cared for, and everything else. Rather than being able to see that and thinking, yeah, that looks okay. No, we've put it all behind a hoarding. It's almost a case of, we're not going to show you what we're doing over here because we don't want you to know about it. What impression does that give? Jim says, my lad has been at work for the last 2 years. He seems to be enjoying it, being on the plant all the time. If he didn't, I'd say try something else. Too many folk doing jobs they don't enjoy and have no pride in. That's certainly true. Said to you often on here, I'm glad I managed to talk my sons out of doing demolition. I actually think that might be one of the saddest indictments. I really do. There is a thing about being a father. You kind of want your son to follow you into the business. Now, my eldest son went off and he's doing really quite nicely. He's a manager over at, he's just changed jobs actually. He's a manager at the David Lloyd Club over in Purley, near Croydon. But Fred, just came on a couple of sites with me and that's it. Hooked, absolutely hooked. And I think, I want that for him, despite the grief that I've had from some quarters, despite the fact that I've had a whack on the head and various other bits and pieces, despite all of that, I still have a love for that industry. And Fred's followed me into it. Peter says 73% of sixth form students believe Black, Asian, and minority ethnic workers will suffer prejudice in the construction industry. Peter, I'd love to sit here and say that those figures are wildly inaccurate, that wasn't the case. I can't. I genuinely can't. And I would say, you're talking about ethnic minorities there. I'd also say the same about genders as well. If you are a woman coming, or a young woman coming into construction, I would almost guarantee that you'll have to deal with something with which you shouldn't have to deal. Jim says any firm can go bang and sting employees. There doesn't need to be corruption. Corruption would probably mean a better continuation of work and more likely not to go bang. But again, let's go back to the parental thing. Okay, so you've got a young person who really does, male or female, goes home and says to you, this is your other child that you don't talk about, Jim, your imaginary one. Dad, I've looked at this construction thing. I've looked at demolition. I really fancy a bit of demolition. Okay, why don't you apply for jobs? I have applied for jobs and I've been offered a job. Who with? Company A. Let me have a look on Google about Company A. And it comes back that says they've just been fined 18 million quid for corruption. That the first choice for your kid? Or do you advise them, yeah, that's that, crack on with the demolition, but maybe not that one? Would be my inclination. Dan says, have a fabulous day, guys. Stay safe and stay positive and happy. It's hard when I'm constantly babbling, isn't it? As an HGV driver delivering to building sites nationwide, there are lots of good blokes, lots of cocks out there too. There's always a minority, spoil it for everyone. Yeah. And I do think that's one of the issues that you have with misogyny, sexual harassment, inappropriate behavior, racism, and that kind of thing. It's not. I hand on heart, it is not the majority. It really isn't. But I think where we fall down, possibly as an industry, is that we allow the minority to continue, rather than calling them out, rather than reporting them, rather than giving them a clip round the ear when they say something inappropriate to an 18-year-old girl. We allow it to happen. Dan says, thing is, construction isn't open and honest now, every man for themselves, and backstabbers too. Big problem. Yeah. The industry needs to update its image to show people that it's a worthy occupation. It's like Marmite. You either love it or hate it. But I do genuinely believe to love it, you have to experience it. And as it stands at the moment, the biggest obstacle between loving it and hating it is getting people beyond that experience thing, getting them out of school and onto a site where they go, actually, this is all right. This is a bit of me, this. Mick says, rather, thinking of it, the most honest thing you said in the monologue was the safety bit where corners are cut. What's the point of daily toolbox talks about doing your health and safety course and all the BS from the site H&S bloke on site? No wonder the kids don't want to know. Yeah. And it's hard to prove otherwise. You know, bearing in mind the health and safety executive once a year, sometimes twice a year, will put out a set of figures that proves that yet again, demolition and construction as a combined industry sector is the most dangerous sector in which to work. It's there in black and white from the health and safety executive. Now, I personally have my reservations about the validity of anything the health and safety executive says, but they have got statistical evidence that proves that construction and demolition are dangerous places to be. And if you search for that, you will find it. If you're a child or if you're the parent of a child looking for a career, you will find that. What do we got here? Dan says there's so much shit on now, to get a cut on a site. They want your life story before they give you a job. You need this card and that card. It's not law to have these cards. What's the reason it's not law? Well, Reddy's is the reason. There's a very poor attitude from those people, Peter. No point in being scared of what might be. People should be what they want to be. Again, I would say exactly the same thing as I said previously. If I'm a young person, an Asian person, or an Indian person, or a Chinese or Japanese or Korean person, and I'm looking at a career, would I necessarily pick construction and demolition, knowing that even if we could convince people that that wasn't the case, and I don't think I could, do you not think? I reckon there's 100 other industries that would be perceived to be less racist than demolition and construction. Now, I'm not saying that perception is right, but I would like to think, if you went into the corporate world, office, HR departments and everything else, I would like to think that, they've largely ironed out bugs in terms of gender equality and racial equality and everything else. I can't necessarily say the same for demolition and construction. Definitely need an overhaul of the card scheme, says Peter. Such a minefield as it stands and puts people off because of it. Yeah. Dan says, like in Ireland, it's a law to hold a card to operate a machine and fall from heights, etc. Here, show your company you can do what you want to do and your ability. Jim says, no, Mark. I'd say go for the firm that pays the best. Well, yeah, I can understand that. There's a bloke I know whistled whilst in the presence of one of his colleagues. The whistle wasn't directed at her, but he now faces a disciplinary hearing because of it. I don't know if anybody actually paid any attention to this, but there was an English player, Jude Bellingham, was sent off in a game with Real Madrid. He plays for Real Madrid over in Spain, and he said something. He claims that he said something like "fuck's sake" or whatever at himself because he'd made a mistake. The referee, who is a Spanish speaker, was convinced that he'd heard an insult and sent him off. Now, I don't necessarily take the word of a footballer because, they're not the most morally, they're not the most moral of people, let's say. But things can be misconstrued. No question about it. We all know when the job is behind when the job is behind, health and safety goes out the window. Yeah. Health and safety, don't make me laugh. They don't have a bloody clue. Dan says, only a site visit when there's a fatality. And even then, they can't do the investigations properly and effectively. A very quick reminder, we are doing the Didcot thing at 10 o'clock on Sunday. Unfortunately, construction workers face disproportionate mental and physical risks to their health whilst working. Yes, they do. Last year, the Health and Safety Executive, HSE statistics found that the construction industry had the most fatalities of all industries in the UK. Yeah. And that is on the internet. Let's face it, the days of applying for jobs out of a newspaper, walking up and down your high street with your CV in hand, that's all from the dim and distant past. All job applications these days are done online pretty much. And I realise you can still pop onto site and offer your services, but, by and large, and if you're a young person who has grown up using a computer and using the internet and carries one of these with them everywhere, you'll be hunting for jobs by computer. If you're using a computer, those facts and figures right there from Peter McKenna about health and safety executive statistics about fatalities, you will find that. With that last statement, would you work in construction? Personally, I would. I would. I've written about boats and office equipment and power systems and hotels and restaurants and stuff over. This is where I feel most comfortable. But I had a hump to get over to begin with. My first 6 months going on site was not a bundle of laughs. Got a lot of stick, and in some ways, when I'm able to look back, and I'm a fairly thick-skinned kind of guy. Maybe that's what I needed. Maybe I was. And listen, when I was younger, I was way too cocky. And maybe I did come across as cocky and self-entitled and everything else, strolling on site, giving it the big one, even though I knew absolutely nothing. Maybe I was guilty of that. And maybe that first 6 months where I was getting a lot of stick and, threatened a couple of times, maybe that's what I needed to straighten me out. Wouldn't change it for the world now. But, as I say, fairly thick-skinned and made it through the first 6 months. Look at the lady in Scotland. Woman complained about a trans changing in women's changing room. She got sacked. 25 years as a nurse. Mick says, got a lot of black mates who were in demo, mainly brick cleaners, but they all jumped in when asked to. And we all still drink together, and the names we call each other will get us locked up. But we all done what we had to do. Yeah. But again, they're there, they're in. Think about it from, if you're 16, 17, black or Asian, and your first day at work, you get called an unpleasant name. And yes, it might be banter, it might be meant in jest and everything else. It's not the best, is it? And yes, I know we have the whole snowflake argument and, you need to toughen up and everything else. And yes, there is a degree of that. But it's 2025. Should we not be beyond that point, particularly at a time when we're absolutely fucking crying out for workers? We go to huge lengths to get people through the door. And the first day they turn up on site, we call them an unpleasant name or get them to do a really crappy job. Or worse still, we get them to do a job that doesn't even exist. We're just doing it for shits and giggles. It's not great, is it? Jim says, I've never used a CV, just phone up or pop on site and have the crack to sort the start out. He also says, just the way it should be. Is danger not a thrill seeker's dream, like cliff diving and parachuting, speeding cars and motorcycles? That's why I'm in the job now. I think the thing with that is you are personally responsible for those risks. If you decide to go skydiving or riding a motorbike particularly quickly, you're in control. You are quite possibly taking your own life in your own hands, but you are in control. And I'd like to think that if you are doing those things, you know what you're doing before you jump out of a plane. You're not going to learn it on the way down. You go onto a demolition or construction site, that is taken out of your hands. You know, the actions or inactions of the guy to your right, to your left, behind you, or in front of you could cause you to die. That's not a thrill seeker thing, I don't think. Mick says, given the chance, I would go back into demo, but there would have to be a lot of changes to be made before I did it. Still willing and would love to mentor someone in the right and wrongs in the game. I wish. Peter, I'm not going to put yours up on screen, and I don't necessarily disagree with it. It's going to give me hassle on YouTube if I put it up, so I'm going to leave that. Life is full of oh shit moments. Yeah, I had one this morning when the audio didn't work. It's not exactly life-threatening, I grant you, but it happened, and hey, listen, we rolled with it. Anyway, people, that is an hour and a half. It's quite a short show yesterday. Back at full length today. I'm going to call it a day. I will be back tomorrow, and I literally have no idea what I'm writing about tomorrow. So we'll see. I'm sure I can come up with something. But go and have a good day. Whatever it is you're doing, go and have a good day. And if you do see a young person looking over the hoarding at the site that you happen to be on, offer them some words of encouragement, would you? So when are you doing a marathon? Well, my wife is going to Greece. So my wife and my daughter are going to Greece in June. There is a bit of a crossover. I'm supposed to be in Venice for the European Demolition Association event. I think I'm there for a couple of days. She's away for about a week. So at some point, I may squeeze in a marathon then. Mick says, stay safe, gents. You too, my friend. Human nature is to err. Sometimes you get away with it. It's called experience. It is. Can you break last year's one? Yeah, not a problem at all. I mean, we're at 4.5 hours is the record. I mean, I could sit here and do that now. And I think part of it is confidence. But I think as today proved, you know, I came up with a set of things to talk about, and we ended up talking about virtually none of that. We went off very, very sideways. We ended up talking about pickles, for example. Never saw that coming. I don't know quite how we got there, but yeah, we did. We did pickles. We did Dr. Martens. We did songs about Dr. Martens. You can't make this stuff up. So yeah, I'd be more than happy to sit here for hours and hours and hours just chewing the fat. But I'm going to do that some other time. I'll be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. Presuming that's assuming I don't get a phone call to say that the site visit I was supposed to be doing today is actually tomorrow. But I'll keep you posted. Keep an eye on the on Facebook and the various other bits and pieces. What is the AI going to make of this, Mark? I wouldn't be at all surprised if it came back and went, computer says no. Wouldn't be at all surprised. And potatoes, but no tits. No, but we did manage to get the word in right at the very end, which is, you know, it's kind of a trademark thing now, isn't it? Anyway, people, go and have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow. All the best.